from my treadmill, my stationary treadmill, to not make anybody motion sick. As I do every month, to answer any questions you may have. For those of you unfamiliar with my work, every year I read through every issue of every English language nutrition journal in the world, so busy folks like you don't have to. I then compile the most interesting, most groundbreaking, most practical findings into new videos and articles I upload every day, or nearly every day, onto my nonprofit site, nutritionfacts.org. Everything on the website is free. There are no ads, no corporate sponsorship, strictly not commercial, not selling anything, just put it up as a public service, as a labor of love, as a tribute to my grandmother, whose own life was saved with evidence-based nutrition. First question I have is, I get 7 to 8 hours of sleep a day, but deep sleep only 10%, according to an Apple Watch. Any tips on how to extend the duration of deep sleep cycles? We're not even sure the implications of total sleep duration. Forget individual sleep cycles. So I would concentrate your health and wellness journey in areas where we have more evidence. My son-in-law, 34, just told by a doctor his blood pressure 127/85. That's too high. Ideal is 110/70, and that he is showing some numbers that may be suggestive of fatty liver disease. That's not good. As long as very low HDL numbers, doesn't matter because HDL is no longer considered a causal risk factor for heart disease, but we need to get rid of the fatty liver. We can do that through weight loss, decrease the intake of, soda and all sorts of other things, saturated fat. And you can decrease blood pressure by, cutting down on processed foods, which are contain about 70% of the excess sodium that Americans get. All sorts of things they can do. Please share the videos on my website of all the juicy evidence-based things to do to change his health course. Is corn, asked Jamie, good or bad for you? I love eating corn on the cob. Oh, and 'tis the season, right? Great. But hear mixed things about it. I eat corn on the cob, just don't put butter or salt on it. And yellow is healthier than white. Is toasted wheat germ as good as raw for spermidine production? Remember, not producing spermidine. Wheat germ actually has spermidine in it. Whether it is destroyed by cooking, I don't think so. But I prefer raw, but I haven't actually seen data comparing the two. Next question from Robert. Is there concern about endotoxins with store-bought pre-cut foods quickly frozen after harvest? Like the problem with pre-cut foods in the produce section? No, because of the problem, endotoxins are components of certain bacterial cell walls, and so it's a consequence of bacterial growth, and that's the whole point of frozen fruits and vegetables, is that it prevents the growth of bacteria. That's why they don't go bad in the freezer, at least for a while. Can you put anti-aging tweaks in the Daily Dozen app? We would if app developers were not so ridiculously expensive. It cost us, I forget, some ungodly amount to add the 21 tweaks from How Not to Diet to the app. And we're like, it's hard to justify spending that much of donors' money. But if you know of anyone, if any app developers who want to donate pro bono or at a discount rate, we'd love to put the anti-aging tweaks into the Daily Dozen app. Talking about Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen for those who are not in the know. Guy asks, if I already drank 3 cups of coffee a day, add 3 cups of green tea a day, wouldn't that be too much caffeine? Not if you drink decaf coffee and decaf green tea. You don't have to. The caffeine is not what's improving longevity. It's the overall antioxidant effect from green tea, and it's the specific those chlorogenic acids in coffee which boost autophagy. So if you don't want to do caffeine, don't do caffeine. Next up, Fedor asks, or Fedor, I just read that steel-cut oats have the same nutritional value as rolled oats. What's the same thing, right? Rolled oats are just, so steel-cut oats are oat groats, which are cut 2 or 3 times. And so if you take a groat, cut it 2 or 3 times, you get steel-cut oats. If you take a groat and you roll it, then you get rolled oats. It's the same food, right? But it's, of course, it's not just what you eat, but what you absorb, and it's better to eat steel cut than it is to eat rolled. And it's better to eat rolled than it is to eat quick cook, and it's better to eat quick cook than it is to eat instant. Because basically instant, it's actually the same ingredients too, unless they add sugar or something, and that's just finely powdered. Basically, it's like oat flour, but it's just unflavored. Instant oats is just oats powdered into flour. But the problem is that causes all that starch gets digested in the small intestine, and you starve your friendly flora. You starve your microbiome. We were meant to eat foods unmilled. So these, no matter how well we chew, we have these nice bits of fiber, nice bits of starch and other goodies encapsulated by fiber. The fiber cell walls in plants, which don't get digested in the small intestine, make it into the large intestine where it can feed our friendly flora. So less processed is better. Jojo says, I've recommended pregnant women avoid tea due to lead. Should breastfeeding women adhere to the same recommendations? Well, I don't say avoid tea. I don't think. Just high to moderate your intake of tea and to choose which country to get your tea from. I have a whole video where I talks about how much tea you should drink from which country and in what form for kids and pregnant women, etc., etc. Should breastfeeding women? That's a good question. I'm gonna say yes, but I don't know. I don't know about I don't know if I know lead is, crosses the placenta. I assume it's crossed through breast milk. So let's say yes to be on the safe side, but that's not something I've studied personally. Larry says, thank you for all I do. You're welcome. Should we be concerned about roasted nuts and natural peanut butter that contains only peanuts? Well, so the reason we don't like to roast high protein foods is because it causes the formation of advanced glycation end products. So ideally we should eat raw nuts and seeds compared to roasted or toasted nuts and seeds. And so why not eat raw almond butter instead? Okay, Wild Blueberry asks, do I have any nutrition tips for a woman who's been diagnosed with May-Thurner syndrome? I have never heard of May-Thurner syndrome, so unfortunately I am not able to help. I am not even going to... Random Letters asks, can you build muscle when sticking to the recommended protein intake of 0.8 grams per kilogram? Of course you can build muscle. Is there a difference between raw and roasted nut benefits? We make our own. It's easier when the nuts are roasted, but it's healthier when they're unroasted. Okay. 37-year-old female who evidently eats diet centered on whole plant foods without added salt, oil, or sugar. All right. In eating some of the healthiest of healthy foods by following the Daily Dozen. Sounds like she does the tweaks too. So she may be doing some weight loss, exercises. That's awesome. LDL 49. Congratulations. That's awesome. BMI 29. That's right. You're doing the tweaks. And waist height ratio. Yeah, too high. We want it under 0.5. Doctor's not worried. Of course they're not worried. You're amazing. Oh my God. LDL 49. That's awesome. But yeah, you still want to, if you are of a kind of normal body type, of BMI is too high, 29, you have too much excess body fat, particularly that visceral fat. And so what other tests? You can test for thyroid function. There's some things that can, if you're on certain drugs like antipsychotics, it can make you gain weight, et cetera, et cetera. Continuing to eat healthy, you continue to eat, lower calorie density foods, etc. The weight should come off. What is my opinion on honey? Honey is sugar. I encourage people to stay away from added sugar. So stay away from honey as well. Corn syrup, it's pretty much all the same. Maple syrup. Do tocotrienols work as a supplement, as they are difficult to get from foods? This is basically like supplement industry propaganda talking about, oh yeah, the vitamin E that you get from foods is not the right mixed tocopherols and blah, blah, blah. Bullshit. You can get your vitamin E from foods, eat some nuts and seeds. I am currently eating a yummy salad, says Jinx. Congratulations. New Earth says, hello, Doc. Any advice for OCD? Oh, I don't know of any diet or lifestyle interventions for obsessive compulsive disorder, I'm sorry to say. Although I don't think I've ever looked, so there might be a great literature out there. I'm just not familiar with it. Beep Boop asks, how much fresh garlic would have the same potency as a quarter teaspoon of garlic powder recommended in the 21 tweaks? And does matcha work as well as ordinary green tea? Okay, that's juicy. So the study on garlic powder and weight loss used garlic powder, not fresh garlic. Does fresh garlic work? I don't know. Does fresh garlic work even better than dry garlic? Maybe, but the study was done with garlic powder, so let's stick to the study until we know more. So, or you can do both. And matcha, ideally, matcha should work better than ordinary green tea because matcha has all the green tea of green tea plus all the stuff you're throwing away in the tea bag, right? So yeah, matcha is probably the healthiest source of green tea, healthiest kind of form of green tea. Vin Man says, I've not seen. Okay, welcome, Vin. Hannah, sorry. Should we worry about heavy metals and spices? We should worry about heavy metals in anything, and encourage, regulatory industries to continue to crack down and make sure. There's been tremendous advancements in Bangladesh, for example. They used to use lead chromate, this bright yellow compound, to add to turmeric to make it look better. The yellow spice that's used in curry powder. Of course, it caused horrible lead poisoning and did all sorts of terrible things. I told people don't get Bangladeshi turmeric, but the government, along with some NGO work, came in and had this tremendously successful campaign to rid Bangladeshi, turmeric from lead. So that's good. So, but it's the kind of thing you have to kind of do. That's kind of a policy decision as opposed to, what are we supposed to do as consumers other than, looking at reports like Consumers Lab or Consumer Reports that actually, goes through and find out which spices have more or less. And so you choose the lower contaminated brands. So, for example, cocoa powder, some cocoa powder had more cadmium than others, but I think the lowest was generic brand Target. And so that's the cocoa powder that I use and have right over there. Does hyaluronic acid work for skin? Does it work for skin? It's a part of skin. I presume you mean like taking hyaluronic acid. I think I covered that in How Not to Age. Check out the Preserving Your Skin chapter. Look up hyaluronic acid in the index. I forgot what the bottom line was. Oh, Cindy says, thank you. You are absolutely welcome, Cindy. Robert says, you have said that we should wait 45 minutes. Oh, yeah, hack and hold. Chopping cruciferous vegetables. But if I wait 12 hours after chopping, does that help or hurt? That's fine. Well, the max, if you wait a couple days, you can get the buildup of bacterial growth because you've kind of, you've chopped through that protective outer layer. And then you can get some endotoxin buildup and decrease some of your impact, some of your benefit. So, no, you can wait 12 hours. I often, I will chop my, one of the first things in the morning, I'll chop my kale or collards or whatever. And, I'll probably put them in lunch, but maybe I'm doing leftovers for lunch. And so I'll use them at dinner, which is, probably, 10 hours later. Okay, next up. Carnitine, carnasine, and taurine, not available in plants in large quantities, are supposedly critical to soft tissue repair. Where should vegan athletes acquire these compounds? From their bodies. Well, everything except from taurine actually comes. Well, no, our body makes these compounds, these like carnitine, unless you have some rare genetic defect. which one in I think 20,000 people has. But you can just take carnitine supplement. And so same thing with like creatine, right? Your body just makes it. If you get it in your diet, your body makes less. If you don't get it in your diet, your body makes more. Taurine is interesting. Taurine is amino acid that new study came out after How Not to Age, and so it is one of my top priorities for research. I'll do videos about. So I'll get back to you about the taurine, but no reason to take carnitine. In fact, carnitine is turned by bad bugs in your gut into trimethylamine, which is oxidized by your liver. It's a TMAO, which has all sorts of ravaging effects in the body, it seems. And so we do not want to go out of our way to eat carnitine. So that's in like sports drinks or meat. Bad idea. Next up, Red Pill Vegan says, do we have evidence that saturated fat damages artery function? We absolutely have evidence. What's the evidence? Well, you give people saturated fat, even just like pure cream. So like the original study was done with McDonald's sausage and egg McMuffins. He said, well, yeah, but maybe it was like the refined grains in the bun or something. Okay, well, fine. You give people straight dairy cream, which is basically just dairy fat, butter fat, mixed in water, and you get a significant crippling of artery function as measured by flow-mediated dilation within hours of consumption. Okay. Lisa says, what's the best way to stop progressing multiple sclerosis? The best way is to eat the Roy Swank diet, right? Which is a low saturated fat diet. Is the most powerful thing ever been described in the medical literature. Beating out everything else. And so that would be my recommendation. I've got videos about that, of course. Alberto would like to ask me about spermidine and quercetin. Do I recommend taking them as supplement? No. Any downsides of taking the supplements? Well, quercetin supplements, you get way too much. And some of these compounds can be dangerous at higher levels. And spermidine supplements, it's basically wheat germ in a capsule. That seems stupid when you can just sprinkle it on your food. But if you want to take wheat germ in a capsule, go for it. James says, what are the adverse effects of added sugar if someone is an athlete? It will, how about give you cavities? Along with lots of other stuff. But let's start there. Fry Shacker. Do you recommend fasting in any form? A form of intermittent fasting called early time restricted feeding. Restricting one's daily feeding into a window for 12 hours or less and early rather than late. So if any meal you skip, you should be skipping supper, not breakfast. Try to shove as many calories earlier in the day as possible. Largest meal should be lunch or breakfast. The exact same food eaten in the morning is less fattening than the same food, same number of calories eaten in the evening, causes less of a blood sugar spike, less triglycerides. If you're going to eat junk food, eat it in the morning. Because of our circadian rhythms, your body's better able to handle it. Lori asks, is it possible for a still ovulating 55-year-old woman to avoid getting anemic on a whole food plant-based diet? Yes, indeed. You've been menstruating for 40 years. And if you haven't gone anemic yet, presumably the amount of blood you lose every month is not enough to overwhelm the amount of blood you're making. So keep it up. Will I consider writing a book about gut health? You have general guidelines. Details are much more intricate. No doctors seem educated. No, well, I've got a lot of videos on IBS, on IBD, gut permeability, microbiome. I must have like 100 videos on the microbiome. I have no current plans on writing a gut health book. My next book will be How Not to Hurt on diet and lifestyle approaches to pain management. Guy, hi, my guy, asks, when eating hummus, how do you know how many servings of legumes you're having since it's mixed with tahini? And listen, in Israel, you can get pure hummus. What do you mean? Like hummus without tahini? That's not hummus. It's kind of in the definition, isn't it? I've eaten hummus in Tel Aviv, and I can tell you there was lots of tahini. But in terms of how many servings of legumes, I don't know, look up a recipe of making hummus. Like make a cup of hummus. How many, how much, is a cup of hummus made out of, 3/4 of a cup of chickpeas? Well, then there's your answer. Tyrone asks, what keeps me overloaded? Overloaded on focusing the study into your profession, sharpening your practice. What keeps me overloaded? I don't understand that question. I'm sorry. Maybe if you rephrase it, I don't know if someone else understands the question and can explain to me. Christopher says, what is my current resistance training regimen? Oh, I heard that they started yes, the vegan gym folks have me an app that I'm working on. My travel apartment here 4 minutes from National Airport in Washington, D.C., which I've had for 6 months. My speaking tour ends in 10 days when I move to sunny Vancouver, BC. But since January, I've been here on a 6-month lease, and they have a gym right in it's a big apartment building. And so I took a video of all the like fancy machines that I've never seen in my life and been like, tell me what to do on these machines. So I've been doing that every other day. I've been home, but of course, I'm on my speaking tour. I'm home very infrequently, unfortunately. Okay, Fur asks, any information on specific plant foods that'll help with traumatic brain injury recovery? I do have a video on put in traumatic brain injury into nutrition facts. I think I have one video if I remember, but I don't remember what it said. Sorry, it's not coming back. That's why I do videos, so I don't have to remember any of this stuff. Blank Creative LLC asks, is there something one can eat to lower balanced salt content foods when, say, eating it with your in-laws? Not able to limit the salt usage. Basically, it doesn't matter what you eat on your birthdays, holidays, special occasions. It's a day-to-day stuff that really adds up. So, if you're forced to eat some crazy food with your in-laws, you eat some crazy food with your in-laws. I wouldn't worry about it so much. You can eat less, right? You can eat less. If you're given bad food and you somehow have to eat it out of someone gives you something terrible and you want to, be polite, you take a little bite, be like, oh, it's great, whatever. You don't have to eat the whole thing. You don't have to ask for seconds, whatever. I don't know. Madison asks, what? Oh, have you heard about kava? Of course, I've got videos about kava. Check it out. A YouTube dentist. I can stop you right there, but no, I'm joking. YouTube dentist. Recommends xylitol. Oh my God, yes, there are downsides. Have you not? Okay. If you are not on Nutrition Facts social media pages, in fact, I'll go through them. Follow us on Instagram at nutrition_facts_org or on Facebook.com/nutritionfox.org or on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/user/nutritionfacts.org. That's the ones I have right here. If you are not on any of those, then you miss when so let's say some new study comes out where it's critical thing that everybody needs to know that they need to stop eating or start eating immediately. They don't got time for me to make a video on it. I put it on our social media. And so this week, put on social media, stop eating xylitol, stop consuming xylitol. This new study just came out showing, xylitol having the same effects as erythritol, something I also did kind of an emergency announcement about. And the concern is cardiovascular risk. And so stop consuming xylitol, period, until we know more. I'm so glad you asked this question. God. And in the future, please follow in case something like this comes along. All right, next up, where are we? I'm so glad that question came out. In fact, I should have just announced it I should make a note in my Q&As to, I mean, it could be a month late though. What if something new comes out tomorrow? I'm not going to talk about it until the next Q&A. So make sure you're signed up on your favorite social media platform to nutritionfacts.org. Peter says, I know it's not Whole Foods, but how much better is the new Beyond Burger? Oh, with avocado oil instead of coconut oil. I didn't know Beyond Burger has an avocado oil. That'd be much better. Presumably there's less saturated fat intake. That's what we really care about. If there's less saturated fat, I am all in favor. Fantastic. That's a wonderful thing. I'm glad they did it. Andy says, what do I think about DMT for vision loss after stroke? I am doing a whole, I assume you're talking, let me just make sure. DMT, right? We're talking about the are we talking about the psychedelic? Yeah, the psychedelic, DMT. I'm going to do a whole series on videos on psychedelics, as I did with cannabis. And so we will find out. The answer is I don't know, but I'm going to find out. Palabi, I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. How much should we worry about pesticides in produce in the U.S.? I talk about in How Not to Die. I talk about a modeling study in which what would happen if half of Americans, even just half of Americans, ate a single more serving of fruits or vegetables? What would happen? We would prevent 20,000 cases of cancer every year. That's how powerful produce is. But because you're talking about conventional produce, pesticide-laden produce, then the additional pesticide burden on the American public might cause 10 cases of cancer. So overall, we would just prevent 19,990 cases of cancer, right? That gives you a sense of the tremendous benefits of fruits and vegetables versus the tiny bump in risk. Now you say, wait a second, why accept any risk by choosing organic? Get all benefits, no risk. Oh, fine. Just don't let concern over pesticides prevent you from stuffing your face with as many fruits and vegetables as possible. Next up, Atticus says, on curry days, I don't even know what a curry day is, but I like the sound of that, I levigate. I don't even know what levigate means. Are you levitating 4 grams of ground turmeric and 1 gram ground pepper into 10 grams of tomato paste? Does it sound that you're making me hungry? Mix into soy milk and slurp through a straw? What? I thought you were going to do something yummy with it. That's okay. Okay, is there a question? I don't know. I would, put it on some greens and I don't know. Anyway, okay. Any suggestion for a person newly diagnosed with inclusion body myositis? Interesting. Well, look. So this person is like, I couldn't find any research, but I assume maybe a whole food plant-based diet maybe worth trying. That seems not to make sense, right? Look, if there's no research, why would something work if there's no research? Well, because a whole food plant-based diet is the healthiest diet. And so eating healthy would presumably help your body deal with whatever came along. I mean, it's not going to hurt. It's like saying, yeah, I don't know if smoking affects inclusion body myositis, but I don't know, maybe I should stop smoke. Yes, you should stop smoking. Because even worse comes to worse, has no effect on that particular condition. It'll help all the other things. Like the last thing you need when you have a new diagnosis is a second diagnosis, right? So even if a whole food plant-based diet doesn't exactly help with that, it'll help with all the other things that can affect you. And that's the last thing you need if you're dealing with something else. And I'm sorry, I've not looked specifically in that condition, so I don't know. We are down to 1 minute left. Let me just announce the next webinar. We had a great webinar on anti-aging drugs. It was a blast. Great questions. A lot of fun. Oh, so there'll be a replay. You can watch. I forget how long it takes to come out. But if you didn't see it live, it'll eventually be up on the webinar section of nutritionfacts.org. Next webinar is July 18th. Mark your calendar on NAD+. There's also NAD boosters out there, NMN. There's, I think, 8 of them. I'm going to go through every single one of them, talk about the pros and cons, how to naturally boost NAD without taking supplements. And that will be at, I believe, 11 a.m. Pacific time. Why am I talking Pacific time where normally I only talk about Eastern time? It's because I'm going to be in Pacific time as of June 28th, living in Vancouver, Canada. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a wonderful month and wish me luck on the move.